All right. Hello and welcome to the Spike Colony podcast. I am back with your regular co-hosts, the Popper of Burn, the Prince of Pre-Modern Burn, the King of Burn, the Philosopher of Fire. He's the beatdown, Michael J. Flores.
Ooh, I'm the beatdown?
You're the beatdown.
The major criticism I get is that I play like a control deck. But thank you. I appreciate being the beatdown.
You're the beatdown today. With
1997 me
snackers.
would really appreciate that. I was obsessed with the word beatdown because Brian Hacker and Dave Price used it. So I would just use it like, just add it to, like in the Ant-Man movies where they just say everything is quantum.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm just like, oh, I'm like this is like my blue-white beatdown control deck, right? Like this is my blue-white quantum beatdown control deck, and it's just like Wrath of God and Absorb, right? Anyway, beat down.
Plus an Ant-Man films reference, a franchise that just keeps on getting worse the more that they continue it.
Ant-Man's fine. It's gas.
Um,
Like some of them suck, like Shang-Chi, not good. Multiverse of Madness, not good, which is also just like a Scarlet Witch movie, not even a Doctor Strange movie.
Yeah, I mean, Quantumania is pretty bad, though. And Ant-Man and Wasp is not great. Original Ant-Man, I'm a fan of. So, you are on a tear recently with Popper Burn. You are sneaking in some sneaky stackers, and you are realizing that it was not Modern Burn that was the best burn deck. It was not
The best Gear 1.
Pre-Modern Burn that was the best burn
Gear
deck.
1, yeah.
It is, in fact, Popper Burn.
Popper Burn, let me tell you, dude.
Well, why wouldn't Popper Burn just be the best burn deck and the best Gear 1 burn deck?
Well, I thought that Pre-Modern Burn was the best Gear 1 burn deck because it has Lightning Bolt and Fire Blast. And, like, Legacy Burn had Lightning Bolt and Fire Blast, but come on. Like, nobody thinks Legacy Burn is a good deck, But, like, Pre-Modern Burn has Lightning Bolt and Fire Blast, and, like, you could have Modern Burn as a Lightning Bolt. You have, like, some standard burn decks have Fire Blast, but they typically had Shock or Incinerate, not Lightning Bolt. Popper Burn has Lightning Bolt and Fire Blast in a dramatically less powerful context, right? Like, nobody has Grim Lavamancers, nobody has Phyrexian Dreadnoughts, nobody has Parallax Wave combos. We have, like, 3 casting cost 2/2 creatures are, like, staples of this format, right? Give me, a 3/3 for 3, I'm sorry, a 3/3 for 4 that has a come into play triggered ability, and I will give you the world, right? That's Popper.
Pre-modern would actually kill for that.
Like a Sagu Wildling.
That 3/3 that just draws a card, and you can plot it or you can like suspend it, whatever.
Look, it is so. There has been rumors of the pre-modern community losing me to the Popper community. Just to like level set this, I'm preparing for a trios tournament. Last time I played in a trios tournament with D-Tao and Andy, I won 1 match on the entire day, and they both won that round, right? And we came in second. I didn't want to embarrass myself in the next trios tournament. So, they were like, "Well, you should play." Well, so it's Dan Sondike and Andy. D-Tao is rotated out for this one, but Andy's like, "Oh, are you gonna play pre-modern?" I'm like, "Dude, we have Andy Levine. Why would I play pre-modern, right?" And so we're not letting you play Legacy again. God no. So I just wanted to acquaint myself with Popper, and I'm loving it. But it doesn't mean I'm leaving pre-modern. I'm just playing 3 times as much Paper Magic per week than I was before.
Yeah,
I'm playing like 3 leagues a week right now.
Yeah, and Popper Burn is pretty satisfying deck to play. Like you mentioned, it has all the hits. This kind of got me back to thinking. I don't want to like overtread on the territory, but I do think that the nice thing about Burn in all formats is that it's not so much a gateway to understanding the format just because Burn is easier to play, but it's like just kind of like the format yardstick where you just kind of can identify how much damage you can trade for cards based on the format's card pool. And that just like sets the standard, right? So in Legacy, you can't use Burn as a yardstick. It just you get every burn spell ever, but your opponent gets to just like Chromox Lotus Petal like kill you type stuff, or do any number of ways to kind of keep a good goblin guy down. With Modern Burn, you kind of had a nice like sort of mix of tools. No Fire Blast, nothing too crazy. No Fire Blast, no Chain Lightning. But
this ended a while ago.
But right? Yeah, at some point they just started adding gain 5 life to every card, every green and blue card.
I mean, no, it's not even that. It's just like I think it was 2 years ago when you said to me, all you do is complain about fire design and how like every freaking creature's a Muldrifter now or a Titan. Like, there's no Baneslayer Angels left in the world. And it's like, look, how many new cards does the burn deck acquire over the course of not just Modern Horizons 2, but now also Modern Horizons 3? And the answer is none, right? Versus how many did the rest of them get of these like imbalanced cards that have never been developed and never
we got Barbarian Ring in Modern Horizons 3.
Okay, well there you go.
Let's go.
We can't even really support that one. It's only like mono damage myself lands at some point. It just the trajectory of the format just like left Burn behind. It just its last card was like 2018. Something like this. 7 years at this point of Horizon sets.
Yeah, I think it's like symptomatic that deal 3 damage to any target. Its relevance in the format has everything to do with the context, right? It's just the most powerful thing that you can do in, let's say, Pauper, absolutely standard. And then, once at some point in time, it was the most played card in Modern. And now I don't even want to look up what that card is. I probably
just like red removal decks have like 1 to 3 lightning bolts. I mean, that should tell you something.
Yeah. I actually am going to go ahead and click over and try to see.
Dude, we are a
most popular card Modern metagame. I guess I can't.
Rich Shea is already tuned out of this episode, and I want to bring it back to the center, man.
All right. So Pauper Burn is great, and then Pre-Modern Burn is like sort of right in the happy middle. But the question of how you can kind of analyze the format or analyze the burn deck using the burn deck, I think, is like a really excellent jumping off point. Discussions about like the optimal 75 for burn, the optimal sideboard cards, the questions of whether or not you should bring in sideboard cards that are like, for instance, trading your Incinerates in for Price of Progress, right? And when you talk about that, it's just like so much easier to talk about, this is 3 damage and I think I'm going to get 6 damage from this card and they cost the same amount of mana. So you always have this yardstick of damage. And I think that dealing damage is like a very good enough approximation of equity for the burn deck. So it just like lets you count when other decks, if you're like, oh man, should I like play a Force Spike or should I play a 3rd Call the Herd or a 4th Sylvan Library or, a 1st Sylvan Library after I already have 4 Miri's Guile, right? Like those questions are a lot more difficult to answer. And you can kind of always rely on burn, even in the context of Pauper, where, you kind of have these like weird elements like Sneaky Snacker, which is just kind of like, I don't know, it's like a Icarid. It's like, an Icarid type card or Ashen Ghoul or whatever. And you have a lot of looting effects and card draw that you normally wouldn't put in your burn deck. And you also have sort of Gutter Snipe and whatever the Thermo Alchemist is now, Kessig, Mr. Geyer, deal Kessig, 1 damage.
Flame Breather, I think.
Yeah. Something to tack on. So it's kind of like this hybrid prowess madness, value grinding.
Madness flashback. It's a lot of 0 casting cost cards.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was like pretty interesting because you like the starting 60 of every burn deck is nearly always exactly the same, right? It's just like the 60 most efficient ways to damage your opponent in any given format.
Neg, I have 2 things I want to talk about. One, you said a smart thing that I thought maybe you'd bring up, but it inspired me to talk about something else. So in addition to being on an 11-0 off of my Pauper record is
01 into 11-0, yeah.
01 into 11-0, right, is my current Pauper.
You made the top 8 of the Pauper Pro Tour at this point.
Yeah, at this point. All right, so, in the meantime, I've played in one pre-modern league in which I went 3-0, and the joke was everyone thought that they were going to lose me to Pauper, so they all laid down last Thursday. I played Burn, which is part of what we're talking about. But you said a really smart thing to me, coming off of Grand Prix Andy Vollmer's house, and I really just kind of wanted to think about that. And then, based on my play on Thursday, I actually want to talk about something really specific. Also, I don't think everyone has the same starting 60. My starting 60 is way different right now. But that everyone thinks they know about, but nobody does right. And so I thought I'd talk about it, which is Oath of Druids versus Jackalpup. Right. So I played 5 games of Oath of Druids versus Jackalpup, and I just want to talk about what I did and what my opponents thought about at the time. And then Rich Busey walks by and he's like, "Well, I would have never done this because I know Mike's going to do this, but I did the opposite in the match that he was watching." So the smart thing you said was, so I was coming off of I screwed up something at Grand Prix Andy Vollmer's house, and I'm like, I should have made top 4. I screwed up, and you said, well, what if your opponent screwed up, right? What if he also screwed up in the same game? Then I'm like, oh, so if I don't screw up, what if he just doesn't screw up? Maybe I don't win the game there. And I'd never thought about that. Maybe not never, but that's not a thing people talk about. They just talk about oh, I should have won, and I only didn't win because I failed to execute on this one particular stack. People use the words "I punted" all the time, as if they had 100% likelihood of winning the game if not for this punt. But the reality is there's a give and go from both players at all times.
Right, of course.
And we never even think about those things.
It's harder. I mean, it's harder sometimes because you just don't know the contents of your opponent's hand, so you don't know if they're being efficient. And that's kind of the trickier thing, because when you kind of get into these discussions that you often do where you have people talking about their matchups, right? And they might say oh, I'm favored against Burn. And, you're just I think that your Burn opponents are just misplaying horribly into you. One pre-modern example of this is that there are replenished players who are pretty confident in their matchup into counterspells. And then there are replenished players who feel like the counterspell matchup is pretty difficult for them. And, it's almost impossible to have a conversation about this because 4 different people will tell you 4 different things. I'll tell you oh, you should sideboard out probably 2 copies of Attunement if you're playing against a counterspell deck. And then you'll talk to people who have maybe play a bit more Replenish on the reg in the Massachusetts area than me, who say oh, I just don't board out Attunement in any matchup ever.
Really? I board out Attunement and Intuition all the time.
Yeah, I mean, Intuition they would agree with, and I think that you definitely want to go down on some copies, right? But, if you're going to board in 3 Abeyance, maybe for example,
like you do.
Or you might, want to have drawn 1 Ancient Tomb ever total, then, Intuition still has its uses at sort of 1 or 2 copies. But, pre-modern Burn that, for instance, I would say I don't think that Burn players should lose to Goblin players almost ever. It happens all the time. In fact, given the data, it happens roughly 44% of the time. But I think
almost half the time. Yeah.
But I think that, I wouldn't say 44.
Wait, is that because you think their Burn decks are misbuilt? I think
I think
have this underlying thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you don't get me started on Urza's Bauble, right? I just I'm done. The last straw for me on Urza's Bauble was people sideboarding, and they're I'm going to sideboard out Bauble for this matchup.
Well, that makes no sense.
Sideboard it out of your deck. If you want,
okay, I'm under pressure. I need to draw important cards. I'm gonna take out the card that searches for those cards, the closest thing.
Yeah,
that searches for
I'm like
those cards in my
really.
deck.
I just like what happened. Like, did the deck thinning stop happening in game 2 and 3? Like, I just are you boarding out all your Grim Lavamancers and Barbarian Rings? So you're like, oh, don't need these anymore. Don't need to fill my graveyard.
I don't.
You're
haven't
really
found
scared
that
of your
yet.
opponent's Null Rods and a Nulls. Like, I just.
I don't think I have ever. I mean, have I ever sided out a bubble? Maybe I have at some point, but I don't.
I think I mean, you have a lot of sideboard guides posted on Cool Stuff Inc. But I like it's okay to side out Bobble because what it is just like I don't know what I'm doing. Like I just like I don't know.
Knowledge.
Yeah,
Well,
I just like I don't
maybe
know.
if you're-
I don't know what I'm doing here, so I'm just gonna side out Bobble because I don't know what else to sideboard out. Right.
That's the thing. So I think maybe also maybe if you're making your deck very very low casting cost, that might be a thing you could do, right? Like if you just there's matchups where you just take out all your ball lightnings, for example. Like maybe.
Yeah, the thing that gets me about the Bobble situation, and don't get me wrong, like maybe there's like some corner case where you're like, oh, I need to draw fewer lands or something. I don't. That doesn't even make sense actually, because you
I'm
would
raising
side
my
out.
eyebrow. Nobody could see.
You
this,
would
but-
you would draw the same amount of lands and spells anyways. For like, okay, this is why it drives me
You
crazy.
draw the same distribution. Of
Exactly the
lands
same
and spells, you see
distribution.
more
Yeah,
cards,
yeah. So,
Right? Like,
well, no, you're slightly more spell heavy if you board out your baubles, right? Because now instead of your distribution being 20 to
maybe what if you sided out Bauble and sided in land?
well, assuming that you side in spells. But so that's like one thing that you could possibly say, which again would be ridiculous because the assumption is that your sideboard cards do things and you want to draw your sideboard cards more often. However, like the thing that gets me is like fundamentally, in order for you to acknowledge that Bobble's like not good in a specific situation, you're acknowledging it's like not good in general. You're like, oh, I want to know if I want to be able to keep my hand. Oh, I want to like draw my lands and my sorcery speed spells on time. Like, oh, like those are all things that are true in game 1. They didn't stop being true in game 2. But it was so enticing for us to be like, if you play 4 Urza's Bobble in this deck, you don't have to play 8 Shocks. And I invite you to play less than 8 Shocks and 0 Urza's Bobble. There are enough red cards in the pre-modern format. I will allow you to put stinky doo-doo garbage like Goblin Patrol in your deck, like a Flame Rift even, if you have a certain meta call that you're feeling confident in.
I came in third in that tournament.
A blistering Firecat has been thrown out there. The third copy of Curse Scroll, the first copy of Price of Progress that normally lives in your sideboard, the first copy of Lava Dart that usually lives in your sideboard. All of these things, I think, that you could play instead of Bobble. If you ask me, I'm going to play Barbarian Rings and Earthquakes.
And a Lava Dart are kind of interchangeable. I mean, Lava Dart is just kind of a higher quality card in a lot of matchups.
Yeah.
In a weird spread of matchups, it's obviously much better against elves. It's much better in the mirror, and it's weirdly much better against like, brain freeze combo decks. Also, it's very it's weird, but like more or less, it's shock, right? Like
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, if you ask
and
me,
shock sucks.
if you ask
right?
me, you had 2 Barbarian Rings and 2 Sulfuric Vortex, but I guess people are allergic to dealing damage to their opponent. Regardless, I still think that even if you were playing not a very good version of the burn deck, you should still have quite a significant edge against goblins. I mean, maybe you get mana screwed sometimes, and that's how you lose. Like, they keep hitting their land drops, and they just curve out, and then you can't cast. Like, your 3 drops are relatively important against goblins, your ability to like double spell, like play a Jackal Pup.
Lightning is the best horriblest card in the Goblins matchup. Like sometimes it's so bad.
Yeah, I mean it's really bad if you don't have 3 lands in play, right? So it's like if you're ever gonna put yourself in a situation where Ball Lightning connects, like the requisite is 3 mana. But like the big thing is just your ability to beat goblins normally comes from like going like bolt into pup bolt, right? Or like have mana for your Grim Lavamancers or have mana for your Curse Scrolls. Like these are all things.
If your Grim Lavamancer untaps twice, you almost never lose.
If your Grim Lavamancer is not summoning sick, you don't lose.
Yeah. So actually, let's talk about the deck I played. So I played the deck that I would have played at Sacred Torch if I didn't get tricked into playing Tinkerfling. which is a kind of Aaron Dix-ish deck, but also a kind of a Lanny deck. I played 22 lands in my main deck. I guess I could have played 4 Sulfuric Vortex, but I played 3 Sulfuric Vortex in a main deck, Price of Progress. And I have a 23rd land in my sideboard. So I played a Forest in my sideboard to support an enormous number of green cards. Most of my sideboard's green. 3 Call of the Herd, 2 Tranquil Domain, and 4 Naturalize in my sideboard, but no blasts of any kind. So my deck is much worse against decks where you'd want to blast them. But I was thinking it'd be much better against Oath decks, decks with Sylvan Library, Oath of Druids, maybe Miri's Guile. That was kind of what I was thinking. I was just like, well, if Stompy is good with these cards, surely the Stompy with Fire Blast would be even better.
All right, so the obvious question here is if you can board in 4 Naturalize and 2 Tranquil Domain against Oath of Druids, does that mean you keep your Jackal Pups in?
So, interesting question. So I played against Oath twice last Thursday, and I played radically different in both times, right? So,
well, one being the Oath spec deck and one being the Oath Ponza deck, right?
So it depends. So in the Ponza Oath deck, I sat down. I was playing against Chris Cruz for the belt, so we were both 2-0, and I was just like, well, I'm kind of priced into this. And I played a first turn Jackal Pup, and he played a first turn Mox Diamond, and I'm like, fuck me, right? Like I in my previous match, because I had played Luis Neiman, I had the same start, and my second turn was attack for 2, Mog Fanatic, my own Jackal Pup, right? So, and Chris just plays a Sylvan Library, and I'm like, you're dead. So then I farted my hand out. And there's almost nothing that's going to stop my hand now, right? Played a second Jackal Pup and another 1-drop. What's he going to do? He's going to take so much damage, even if he has a Terravore, right? It's already lights out. So I'm thinking, I'm just priced into this. My hand is just priced into Jackal Pup on the first turn. Can't do anything. If he has Oath, I'm screwed. If he doesn't have Oath, I'm going to run him over. So I ran him over. But Chris knows this, and I think that he's going to be calibrated to, I just lost to Jackal Pup, I'm going to leave all my Oaths in. That's what I think he's going to do, right? So because of that, I cited out all my Jackal Pups. And, including, we went to 3 games, including in game 3, I had no Jackal Pups in my deck. So I had a really interesting draw where I had a 2-for-1 Naturalize on his Mox, and then a 2-for-1 Tranquil Domain on an Oath and a Sylvan Library, and my clock was a Mog Fanatic. And I'm like, I'm up 3 cards at this point, and I'm just going to lose to a Mishra's Factory. I'm just cooked. And then I drew a Price of Progress, and I 10'd Chris. And I'm like, I'm no longer going to lose. 10 damage is a lot, in the burn deck. But when I played against Luis, I had the same opener. I played first turn Jackal Pup, and he played first turn Oath, and I literally just Mog Fanatic my own Jackal Pup on turn 2, and I had to play a slow game, but I beat him 2-0. I think part of that is just unless you're getting murdered by Oath of Druids, I think that the red deck has a huge advantage against.
The two Oath decks. The 2 Oath decks don't have a good way to reduce the number of draw steps you get. And the thing that we know about the red deck Gear 3 is that the number of draw steps you get generally puts you towards the inevitable victory. So unless your opponent starts working you with just Terravore, right? Because all their man lands just die to burn. You're just going to draw out of it.
Yeah, I lost.
Unless you're mana screwed.
I played a burn deck a few leagues ago. I went 2-1. I lost to Jeff Ferris. And Jeff just cast the card Terravore in game 3. Right? We split the first 2 games. And I'm like, all right, I'm contained on this front. I'm going to win. He just cast a Terravore. I'm like, oh, shit. This thing's going to kill me. Right? So.
It's like a tempting worm with extra work in this case.
But it has trample. The fact
that's a good point.
Pretty substantial. My whole goal in life is to chump block that shit with a Mog Fanatic and deal you 1. You can't really do that to a Terravore. The interesting thing about the Chris Cruz matchup, which was Ponza Oath, was Chris did, I think, what everyone would have done, and I would have generally agreed with, which is to side out all the Winter's Grasp and Thermokarsts. Here's the interesting thing about that. One, when you lose game ones to the Ponza Oath deck, it's usually because they drew a lot of
Winter's Grasp and
Winter's
Thermal
Grasp, those cards suck, and you usually lose when they draw a bunch of them because you're just like, I have a stupid 1/1 and then they have a Terravore. And it's less that like the Winter's Grasp and Thermokarst were good and more like I can't get out of this now because I don't have any land. Right? Like, and so I'm just like stuck playing like one Seal of Fire per turn and you're attacking me for 10.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Oath Ponza deck suffers more so from Sylvan Libraries and Mox Diamonds against Burn than it does from the Stone Rains. Like, the Stone Rains are your only hope, right?
So, but like I said, in game 3, I had 2-for-1 followed by 2-for-1, which is that's how I sideboarded, right? I sided in Naturalize and Tranquil Domain and Forest. So here's the interesting thing. He sided out all of his Thermokarsts and all of his Winter's Grasp, which I think most people will do in this situation. And I have one Forest in my 75, right? So that Forest was a load-bearing Forest. Like, if he just has the Thermokarst, he's going to strand all the Naturalizes in my hand.
I mean, aside from the fact that the red-green deck doesn't have, like, a lot to board in, right? Because, like, the most that it can plausibly board in is Call the Herd and Pyroclasms, or Naturalizes.
Well, Pyroclasm sucks.
Yeah, I mean, it's not ideal. But if you can stop creatures, you might be able to sort of win the race.
Pyroclasm is like no text. It's just like you're 1-for-1ing a Grim Lavamancer.
Yeah,
Right?
I mean, I agree. Like, I wouldn't be like excited to bring it in, but if you consider that your opponent might like, this is the interesting thing. It's like Jackal Pup, if you don't have Oath of Druids, is like the absolute scariest thing, right? And even if you do have Oath of Druids, Jackal Pup on the play is still going to get in for a reasonable amount of damage. It's like, and then if you have Oath of Druids on turn 3, then you're just dead. So I think that having redundant removal is at least somewhat relevant in this case. Because you can just sort of tailor your game to your draw, right? If you draw Oath of Druids, you cast Oath of Druids. If you draw, Pyroclasms and Call the Herds, then you go down that route, and you try your best to stop the onslaught. But I think the Mana Screw plan is the only hope that you have of working it. Because, like, if you're gonna board out all the LD, are you gonna board out Sphere of Resistance too? Like, your entire deck is built around this.
So here's the interesting thing, right? Like, when I played against Luis, he obviously doesn't have Stone Rains, like, because he's the quiet spec deck, right? He just could put up no resistance, basically.
Yeah, he just
the best
gets
thing he
run
could do
over.
is cast a Cataclysm, and I think I double Fire Blasted him in response, right?
Yeah.
He's like, wow, that was not productive. He has me on a 2-turn clock with Terravore, but I think he wasn't imagining he was going to be 8 less.
I mean, it's just like Zuran Orb or bust. It's like Zuran Orb or Mana Screw, you're a bust in the case of Red Green Oath, and then in case of like Cataclysm, I guess they can try to play the chill plus get in plan.
Chill? Are the quiet spec decks playing chill?
Well, no, you have to just kind of imagine what they could possibly do to solve the matchup, because I don't think this is like a tempting wormable problem.
So I'm just thinking, like, I hate sideboard guides, right? Like, people are like, oh, here's this, let me buy the sideboard guide. I'm like, can you imagine a sideboard guide for either side of this matchup? Like, if you have a sideboard guide for either side of this matchup, it's proscriptive what the other guy should do, and they will get a gigantic advantage because you are always going to be wrong if you're following the sideboard guide. You are literally wrong 100% of the time.
Yeah, well, this is when you have to start getting your little Nash equilibrium strategies out there, which is like probably a good time to like issue a correction about how I was talking about Nash equilibrium like 3 podcasts ago. But basically, the way Nash should work is that you have this this array of decks, and each player needs to randomize which deck they choose, like weighted random, right? Thus resulting in a metagame that has 30% Psychotog, 10% Survival Madness, 5% Blue-White Replenish, etc., etc. And so similarly here, this could be a situation where both players need to randomize. One player is basically saying 0 or 4 Jackal Pups, and the other player is saying, 0 or 4 Oath of Druids. You have a computer run the simulation like 10 billion times, and then all of a sudden they might start emerging things where it's like, okay, some like you actually mix in 15% of the time you have 2 Jackal Pups in your deck, and your opponent has 1 Oath of
That's
Druids.
actually one of the things I was going to bring up. I think I'm going to put this in air quotes. Conventional wisdom is that if you don't know what your opponent's doing, you should have 1 to 2 oaths in your deck. Like that's what people say. Never side all the oaths out, right? That's a thing that people sometimes say, right? I'm like, does that imply I should have 2 Jackal Pups in my deck? That's kind of what it implies, right? Like, which is asinine. Why would I have 2 Jackal Pups?
Yeah, I mean 2 Jackal Pups is fine. It's like you just can't draw 3 copies. So if your opponent does have the
Jackal Pup sucks.
if you don't
It's
if you're
not turn 1.
if your opponent
True or false?
not true. Yeah. I mean against this specific deck, still not true, right? So if you have Jackal Pup in play and they don't
Jackal
have
Pup is great on turn 1. Agreed.
yeah.
It is increasingly less great most other turns.
Yeah, but the whole point of I mean this is kind of like a good lesson in equities in general, right? Is that you don't have to reason by extremes. You don't have to maximize your opening hand, percentage unless you think that your advantage of having it from the opening in your opening hand is like the absolute maximum, right? So if you have Jackal Pup and
This is too advanced.
you win, let's say you have Jackal Pup, you win 55% of the time you cast it on turn 1, and you win 52% of the time you cast it on turn 4.
It sounds great.
Yeah,
It's a much better card than it is. But I think you win 75% of the time you cast it on turn 1 going first.
Yeah, sure. I mean, generally speaking, you don't win more than 60% of the time you cast any spell. Like assuming that you have a win rate of
What if it's a Dreadnought?
50%. Dreadnought probably has an opening hand win rate of 60, 65. Yeah.
I think 65 might be low. Sure.
But any given card and any given deck probably less so, right? But the point is, if your opponent's strategy is able to take equity away from the turn 1 Jackal Pup, then you kind of run into like a matrix of situations where it's like it's great if you have it on turn 1 and they don't have Oath. It is great if it's still good if you have it on turn 3 and they don't have Oath. If they do have Oath, the times that you just won't draw it because you have fewer copies in your deck, somewhat insulates you from the potential outcome that puts you from
let's say you had a free Mirri's Guile. It's like a Mirri's Guile for 1, not a Mirri's Guile for 3. Like you start with this card in play, okay? And the free Mirri's Guile for 1 says you can have a Jackal Pup on turn 1, or you can have whatever the random next card is. Do you take the Jackal Pup or the next random card?
Well, you
No, I'm just saying this is a binary.
You probably take the Pup, yeah.
Probably take the Pup. Okay, I agree. It's turn 3. Now, the same Mirri's Guile says you can have a Pup on turn 3, or you could have anything else in your deck in the next turn. Would you take the Pup, or it's turn 3? Take the Pup or no?
I would take it. I would take a Grim Lavamancer on turn 3.
I didn't ask you if you get a Grim Lavamancer. I said you get a Pup.
Well, you said a Pup or any other card. I said I'll take a Grim Lavamancer.
You get a Pup, or you get
a
whatever
card at random.
Yeah.
Then I can probably still take a Pup. Yeah.
Really?
Against my Oath of Druids opponent, and they don't have an Oath of Druids in play.
I would take a random card on turn.
Because if you have a Jackal Pup, then it's going to get in for 10 damage. Like it just is. Like if they don't have Oath of Druids in play, what can they put in front of it? Treetop Village, Mishra's Factory, which both cost mana, and Call of the Herd.
So,
like Pup is really, really excellent in all. Like this was like one of the main upgrades of you should just keep in Pup against goblins and elves, right? Because just
you're keeping in Pup against elves?
Yeah.
I think this
just
is
think,
a hard.
Just
it's
think
a really
about
hard thing to argue because I never lose this match.
Just think about what happens, right? Because assuming the other card in your sideboard is maybe you're in the elves matchup. Let's just look at your list, right? And you're gonna just bring in against elves. I mean, you have Naturalize, so that's not really fair. Let's just assume that we're playing a normal burn deck, right? You're just board out Incinerate for Lava Dart before you board out Pup for Lava Dart.
Well, I would board out Pop as the first card I would take out.
I'm saying a normal burn deck that doesn't have Pop. That doesn't have Pop in the deck. So, and the reason for that is pretty simple, which is just that if Pup trades for an elf, it will have done the same thing as Incinerate in that situation, except
you have upside.
but it'll have done it for 1 mana, right? And it might, yeah, exactly. It might have gotten between 2 and 6 damage in the process. And if Pup doesn't trade for an elf, then your opponent loses the game. And like, if you're gonna bolt a Llanowar elf on turn 1, like, then you might as well just attack with your Pup instead. In fact, it's even better if you're on the play. You can just bolt the elf and attack with your Pup.
Well, that is great. Being on the play is a superpower that people would like to have.
But I mean, just like think about what your opponent is like. The composition of your opponent's deck and what it's doing. It's just like
but my elf's deck has 4 Call of the Herd and 4 Tempting Word.
I mean,
sucks against that deck.
Those things definitely like maybe push the opposite, like differing directions. But overall, I'm just saying, like, even if you're on the draw, even if it's like turn 3 or turn 4, like, you have a card, it's going to trade for a 1/1. Your entire deck, like, has that floor, right? And then they're just kind of analyzing like what the potential is. Just like, okay, well, the ceiling is that I can deal somewhere between 2 and 6 damage or 2 and 10 damage, and Incinerate can only ever deal 3 damage, right? So yeah, I mean, if you're gonna board in 4 Lava Dart, 4 Earthquake, and another Curse Scroll, if you have like a bunch of goodies, like
you have no aspirations of ever beating a blue
or
green deck.
If you have like if you have a ridiculous sideboard, like maybe Pup starts to get closer to the chopping block a lot earlier. But in the case of goblins, like Pup is just fantastic. Like the worst thing that can happen to your Pup is that they have a Goblin Matron in play, and that doesn't happen until turn 3, right? So even on from a tempo perspective, from a card advantage perspective, it's horrible if their Goblin Matron gets you. Well, like from a tempo perspective, like trading Pup for Goblin Matron being the worst thing that can happen is like you might still win doing that, right? Otherwise, they're just going to Mogg Fanatic. Like, they have to do something about it. And then what? It's just drawing fire away from your Grim Lavamancer. And reducing the amount of goblins they have is like good against their Gem Palm Incinerator. So
it's just good. I mean, they only beat you if they
have goblins, yeah. If they have goblins,
right?
Right.
Like just 1 or 2 goblins is not beating Fire Blast.
Yeah.
It's a race.
Yeah. And it was interesting because like when I tested the matchup, people were like, you're gonna get blown out by Pyrokinesis. It's like, guess what? Like, you just never have 2 creatures in play, because if you have 2 creatures in play, like, what do they have? Do they have no creatures in play?
You are
like, they're
an arrow to the knee from Pyrokinesis. It hurts.
Right, but the thing is, they have no interest in like holding back their Pyrokinesis. Like, they're like, oh, I'm gonna wait until they have 2 Jackal Pups in play. Like, they're sitting there, so it's
Fire Blast your face and get in with Pile Driver.
It's turn. Well, there's no Pile Driver to get in with, right? There's no goblins to get in with,
other than Pile Driver.
Like, this is the way that most of the time it'll happen. It'd be like, if you play Pup on turn 1 and you attack with it, the Goblins player is just like, I don't know if I can afford to take this 2 damage, and then they can 2-for-1 Pyrokinesis you, and then maybe the 4 damage ends up mattering. But you're never gonna get into a situation where like you don't have agency over like putting Pup, Grim Lavamancer, and Ball Lightning into play at the same time. Like, if you're doing that, you're either that's your only line to win, or or you win even if you get pyroed. Right?
Actually, to be fair, you just didn't think about it, right?
Yeah, or you forgot. Yeah.
A lot of people will be in that situation and they just didn't think about it.
Yeah, I got my Masticore Pyrokinesis when I was playing elves versus goblins.
Wow.
I tapped out of the mana too. I was just like, do I need to hold up regeneration? I'm like, nah.
Wow. Okay. So, yeah, but let's just talk about this Oath versus Jackal Pup situation. If you're just playing the abstract on the Oath side, you've been an Oath guy more than I guess you've also been a Jackal Pup guy, and you put a lot of thought into the Jackal Pups. What's your thought? How many Oaths do you have? How many Jackal Pups do you have?
I think that most of the time I'm sideboarding out Oaths, knowing that people like to sideboard out Jackal Pup, and that they, don't listen to the Spike Colony podcast, etc. But if I'm sitting down across from a listener of the Spike Colony podcast, I'm going to keep my Oath of Druids in. And generally speaking, it's safer to have your Oath of Druids in because the fact that it destroys Grim Lavamancer and turns Mogg Fanatic into just a deal 1 is pretty reasonable for
and it generates a lot of virtual card advantage also.
Well, yeah, I mean, sort of. It's like weird, right? Because you actually just go down a card, and if they don't have those cards in their hand, like if they just like didn't draw Grim Lavamancer, then it's not like
Yeah, but sometimes they just have 3 creatures in their hand that they're afraid to cast.
sure. But, I mean they shouldn't, right? Like if you're the burn player and you have 3 creatures in your hand, just like put them on the battlefield and just try to win the game. Like,
Well,
but and if you draw multiple copies of Oath, it's a disaster, and you might even like put Oath into play and then put a Call to Herd token into play, and then they just like Oath into Ball Lightning, and I guess you block the Ball Lightning, you take 3, and then you try to Oath
I've
into
won a lot of
Terrorboard.
matches I didn't deserve by like oathing up a Ball Lightning and casting a Ball Lightning the same turn. That was a lot of trample.
My larger point is that you have 4 Sylvan Library in your deck, and you should just get rid of those. And
So,
I can.
You think Sylvan Library is just terror bad against? I guess you never want to draw 4, right? Right, pay extra.
You'd never pay, and then if you never pay, then you're like going down a card to like fix your draws, and like
Yeah, that's just totally not worth it.
you need
just draw the
cards.
next
Yeah,
card.
you need cards in your hand, right? You need cards in your hand. Like you already go down on card advantage on Mox Diamond. Like you just get
I don't
none
know
of
if
the upside.
anyone's ever said this before, but I think you're 100% right. Like Sylvan Library sucks. It's terrible, and they should side it out. It's just if you're never gonna pay 4, then why is it good?
Yeah, people talk
Hard to
themselves
guard.
into like they like deck touching a lot, so they talk themselves into the idea that like
Yeah, but like,
it'll help them
do you
find
like-
their Zern Orb,
do
right?
you like deck touching enough to discard a card?
Yeah.
Discard a card and 2 mana?
Yeah, well that's
Like a reverse Dark Ritual.
that's sort of like my problem with Sylvan Library in general, right? Like it's like in order for you to turn it into a portent, it's 1G for life. But and you don't get the shuffle, like then you have to
The Oath guys playing against each other have such reverence for Sylvan Library.
yeah, they love it. Yeah.
They are like insane about like, oh my god, he had Sylvan Library advantage. How could I have won?
Yeah.
Shut up, dude.
I mean, in those
Pay 4?
matchups, it makes sense because the game is going to last on average like
Well, also, there's
30
no
turns.
threats, so you just pay
Yeah.
4, and when they activate,
Yeah,
you have to plow it.
Yeah, it's like a question of the game is going to last like 30 turns or less than 10, right? If it's going to
'cause,
last less than 10, like look at the top 3 a few times is just not going to make as big of a difference as maybe even Pyroclasm in this
There's
scenario.
like super high leverage individual cards that you could draw. Like if one guy can draw like Quiet Speculation, right, in the Quasi Mirror, like that's pretty good. That's like 3 Ancestrals.
Yeah.
That, if one guy can draw Cataclysm, that might or might not be good, depending on if the other guy's sandbagging Sword Supply.
Well, that's why I was sort of quicker to be like, why didn't Quiet Speculation take away the Sylvan Library slots, right? So if you have 2 Quiet Speculation, 2 Deep Analysis, it's like 4 card advantage cards. They trade cards for life, very much in the same way. Like I thought that was sort of what I would do, and then Fran
kind of curve color considerations a little bit.
Yeah, of course. I mean, these decks aren't great at producing blue. Fran made his video of his, white, blue, green, Quiet Speculation, Weathered Wayfarer deck, which kind of like just borrows DNA from, Tribe, which was a Quiet Speculation deck, and Oath Spec, which is a deck with lands that did things.
Exactly, blades that could produce mana of some color.
Yeah.
Including black.
Mostly colorless, actually. And he took
but
that
also
for a spin.
green.
But yeah, he played zero Sylvan Library. He played 3 Portent, and I thought that was like interesting because Fran is aware of Sylvan Library, but Portent.
He's the biggest Sylvan Library fan.
Yeah, I mean
don't
he
know
was
anyone who
he
likes
was
Sylvan Library
he's
more than him.
got to be like the first person to notably play 4 copies of Sylvan Library in a deck, like a thing that we previously thought was just like unacceptable behavior. We were like so
Now
mad.
people are playing like 4 Mirror's Guile and a Sylvan
And a Sylvan,
Library.
yeah. It used to
They're
be like
and you cannot keep a hand that doesn't have one of these.
I like
cards.
when I would like feel significant pain when I put the second Sylvan Library in my deck, right? Because
In
I'd
your
be like,
deck,
what if I drew 2? Like,
It's like Randy Hoth version 1. We had 1 Sylvan Library and one Abundance. I think.
yeah. I mean, you had Scroll Rack in that deck, which is also like, if you wanted to play 12 Sylvan Libraries, you can play 4 Scroll Rack, 4 Mirai's Guile, and 4 Sylvan Library. Just like,
Yeah, but we also had mulch. I mean, Skorak gets a lot different when you have mulch.
yeah, I mean, so does Mirai's Guile and Sylvan Library for what it's worth.
All right. So here's my thinking on the previous question. If I'm burn and I lose game 1, I keep my Jackal Pups in all the time. And the reason for that is I'm going to be on the play in game 2, and I'm playing with reverse house money. That's how I'm thinking about it. I'm like, I'm down a game. I kind of need to run him over, and Jackal Pup is going to help me run him over, and then I'll think about what I'm going to do in game 3 if I get to game 3.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird question, right? Because if you're the Oath player and you like open up your opening hand, like, what are you looking for? Like, what card are you like really hyped to have in your opening hand? Like just Zern Orb,
Tutor, Swords to Plowshares.
Yeah, I mean,
any of the Eravor.
If you're the white version, sure.
Yeah, I mean, the cards I would want are Zern Orb number 1, because Zern Orb is like 100 giant growths, and it's also like, it's like not just gain 2 for sacrificing a land. It like counters Price of Progress. Like, one of the things that's like a big way that you can lose this matchup from the Oath side is you tap your Wasteland to cast a spell, and then your opponent just like take 10. And you're like, oh, I shouldn't have tapped my Wasteland.
Right. So, I mean, I have like, the reason I brought it up was just like, okay, well, if your hand doesn't contain Oath of Druids and it can't answer a Jackal Pup, like, what do you do? Like, do you mulligan?
I don't know. It depends. Like,
I think pups are in. I think
maniacs are like Mox Thermokarst. YOLO!
It's got to be 4 pups in from the burn side and 4 oaths in from the oath side. Because
not necessarily in game 3.
No. All games. The reason the reason being quite simple, right? Is just like pup is just like a goblin lackey with less steps, right? If it hits you, you probably lose. And because of that, just because your opponent has scary cards like Pyroclasm and Oath of Druids and Swords of Plowshares and Blue Elemental Blast, you just never board out your lackey, right? Like, Goblins players were like boarding out lackeys against burn. And I was like, listen, like, Goblin lackey,
would do that?
It's been mentioned. I changed their mind afterwards.
I mean, that's crazy. As a burn player, like, sometimes you can't answer a first turn creature. It's happened, right? Like, you have a hand and it doesn't have like a shock or a Seal of Fire or a Lava Dart, and you're like, I have an Incinerate,
or a Mog Fanatic. Yeah.
There's not a lot of hands like that.
Yeah.
The last time I lost this matchup, I kept one.
Yeah, it happens.
I played a Grim Lavamancer to block, and he had a Gem Palm Incinerator, and I was behind a CGN Commander the next turn.
My point is,
wasn't a horrible decision.
My point is, the player with the Jackal Pup doesn't have to think very hard, right? If they have the Jackal Pup, they cast it on turn 1. The person with the Oath of Druids has to like fan out their opening hand and like figure out what they're going to do if their opponent has a Jackal Pup. If you take that out of your range, it's a lot less scary for the player who has to basically make a really tough decision, which is like, can I keep a hand that gets run over by creatures? And ultimately, I think that's kind of like that on that.
I love this analysis. I don't think that I would get to the same conclusion that you've clearly gotten to on this. Maybe I will, but I love the analysis side, and even though we are sometimes, although not always, an analogy hostile podcast, we're currently in the pro analogy era. And so you're calling Jackal Pup a Goblin Lackey is perfectly acceptable during this era of the
podcast. Yeah, and the woke era, of course. It can be a Jackal Pup without the
people are asking me why my Pauper deck isn't more blinged out. I guess they don't.
Yeah. They don't know about woke. Moving on to the next topic, I did want to, we don't have a ton of time. We're going to keep this short today. I did want to do a quick preview for Off the Top Rope, the no deck touching tournament run by Sunny. This is going to be on November 1st, Saturday, Saturday, November 1st at 11 a.m. at Hex Company West, the Upper West Side location. The rules of this tournament is that you cannot put a card in your deck that would make you or your opponent touch their decks. You can only touch your deck
other than in draw step.
You can only touch your deck from the God-given natural draw step that you have at the
no Howling Mine.
Yes, yeah. The natural God-given draw.
No Weathered Wayfarer.
No Weathered Wayfarer. No Survival of the Fittest. No fetch lands. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this one's going to be for the New York community.
No Tranquil Thicket.
But I actually encourage other TOs to put on a no deck touching November tournament or meetup in your local area. I think it'd be really fun to just see what happens, let loose a little, and hopefully see another offshoot of the pre-modern format. So let's go ahead and figure out the levels of no deck touching. Level 1, play the red deck. What are your thoughts on this?
Is that level 1?
I think level 1 is play the red deck, right? So the red deck.
Level 1 was play Stompy.
That's also, I think that's like level 2. Like, I think that the Stompy deck is not very good against the red deck. I think that you think it is, and you're wrong.
The red deck won't have Grim Lavamancer.
No, it just will have Grim Lavamancer. Like,
he'll just suck.
No, he'll just do, like, in an average game, he'll be activated one fewer time, Mike. Like, it's not that big a deal.
Are you trying to convince me to play the red deck so that you could play a white weenie deck with Worship and Silver Knight?
All right.
Is that what you're trying to do?
So the deck that doesn't change very much, right, is a deck that can just play, 18 Mountain, 4 Barbarian Ring. It still gets to play all the burn spells. It still gets to play.
It's just no fetch lands.
Yeah, it's just no fetch lands and no bobble, which shouldn't be in your deck to begin with.
I already
right?
cut the fucking bobble.
Yeah.
Although you're just a mono red deck instead of like the red green version that
I. Okay, well we'll get to potentials for splashing later, right? So that, I think, is level 1. Now, the question about level 2 is, what decks do you actually think beat the red deck better? Do you think a green deck that has Tempting Worm in the main deck?
In the main deck?
If your opponent is just going to empty their hand by turn 4 anyways, right? You might as well just have Tempting Worm in your deck.
That is a way to do it.
So I don't think that the answer to the red deck is Stompy. I think it's a little bit closer to Beefcake, because Beefcake can do Urnum Djinn, Choice of Tempting Worm type nonsense, and it's also monocolored, and it's also no deck touching. And I think that the Elvish Spirit Guide Urnum Djinn type starts are going to be pretty good against the red deck. When Beefcake Jake was making his run in the Massachusetts area, he was able to defeat Burn despite the fact that he had Ancient Tomb in your deck. So I think that a green beatdown oriented deck that's not Stompy has a likelihood to be good. I just don't think you can get there with Rogue Elephant, right? If you play Rogue Elephant and I play Lightning Bolt, like, you just lose the exchange. Not to mention, you still play 12.
What if you have Harvest Worm?
You play 12 1/1s. Just don't get me started. Not to mention, you play 12 1/1s, and 1/1s just get annihilated by just all of the burn cards and spells.
Like Lava Dart. That, like, you can just play the red deck, right? It's just.
Yeah, it's the same. So I think the green deck can beat the red deck. I think a white deck can also beat the red deck.
White deck will murder the hell out of the red
deck. I think that I can beat the white deck because I just play 4 Barbarian Rings and I'll play 3 Curse Scrolls. And then you're like pro red guy, it just doesn't matter, right?
But the white deck has other features, right? Like, you don't have to get locked out by Worship Silver Knight for Worship Silver Knight to slow you down enough for Exalted Angel to take over, for example, right? Like, you just didn't die.
I mean, Exalted Angel's never getting in.
Okay, I'm happy for you that you think this, because maybe you're right, and then I can play the red deck.
I don't think Exalted Angel is the solution to the problem. Like, you're waiting until you have put 6 Blaines into play and you tap them for Exalted Angel, and it just like eats Grim Lavamancer plus Burn Spell all the same.
So another deck that I thought about that I think might be pretty good is Pit Rack.
Yeah. The rack is a card if your opponent if you're not allowed to draw cards.
So you would have to take out Skeletal Scrying, right? So Skeletal Scrying is a loss, but it's not a super substantial loss, I don't think.
I mean, most Pit Rack decks didn't even play that card before.
Well, you can't play Phyrexian Arena. If you're a Phyrexian Arena guy, you can't play that either. Yeah. You can't play Phyrexian Furnace because even though that's not its core functionality, it does have the text draw card on it, right? But you do get most of the rest of the deck. You get a bunch of discard in the rack in a format where the opponent only draws 1 card per turn. That's kind of insane, right?
Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's absolutely great.
So, and if you think everyone's playing red, we don't have space for cards like Skeletal Scrying and Phyrexian Furnace anymore. Can you add a Funeral Charm? Can you add a Spinning Darkness? And you can also second level this, because if you think like the white decks or the green decks are the answers to red, Dystopia and Gloom, man. These cards are not deck touching cards, and they generate a lot of advantage.
All right, let me next level your next level. So no more Wooded Foothills, but we do have Karplusan Forest. We do have Mossfire Valley. God forbid we have Shivan Oasis, Gemstone Mine, and City of Brass. Why don't we just put Tempting Worm, Call the Herd into the red deck and just call it a day?
Ooh, I don't hate that.
Because if your opponent is just like Pit, and you're just like, K, Tempting Worm, I'll race you.
Well, I mean, that's when I remember I mistakenly was like, oh, I haven't won a meetup in however long because SWBB won them all. SWBB reminded me that when he was on Mono Black Pit Rack, I beat him with the red-green deck, right? And one of the angles was I had discarded Call of the Herd to Bottomless Pit, and it was just, fuel for the game.
Yeah. I just wanted to have this quick discussion because I think that people were like throwing their hands up and they're like, oh, red is going to be the answer. I don't even know if red is good. Like, I don't even know if red is good if your opponents are going to, like, I don't think it's great against black. Like, you can kind of, like, if you have your Funeral Charms and your Spinning Dark.
Wants to go Funeral Charm Spinning Darkness, I think they probably have the edge.
Yeah.
Those cards are highly advantageous against red.
Yeah, and the rack is already good against red to begin with. And black gets to play Curse Scroll as well. I mean, every deck gets to play Curse Scroll. There should just be, like, three Curse Scrolls in every single deck in this format, right?
I just think the rack in a format where everyone else is drawing one card per turn seems insane to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So powerful. Right? And then, so the other thing is, like, black gets actual card advantage, right? Like, Ravenous Rats is not the most impressive card advantage engine on Earth until you figure it's actually trading pretty clean with Jackal Pup and Mog Fanatic, and it took somebody down on the way down, right? Like, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, Flashback Cabal Therapy.
It has like a lot of like backdoor card advantage. You
can just chain a Smog your opponent.
You could also play the green black version loses basically nothing, right?
Yeah, you didn't have fetch lands to begin with. So.
Yeah. We're just like Tempting Worm, Treetop Village, and Call the Herd in the green black version. I mean, maybe it's the time for that deck's Day in the Sun. The problem is when we were playtesting it, Andy annihilated me with the red deck consistently, which is that was the deck that we thought it was really going to be great against.
Yeah.
And Andy just over and over beat me, so that's why he's playing the pre-modern seat.
Yeah, but you know what's crazy is that you can also just sideboard in. Now that we're not playing Pyroblast, you can just sideboard in your own copies of the rack against your black opponent.
This is why I once mistakenly called you the best deck. I was wrong.
Your opponent's
but you have great ideas.
I'll cast Bottomless Pit. It's like, okay, I'll pass the rack. I choose you.
I love that. I mean, Hypnotic Spectre's not going anywhere, right? Like, you get your opponent to 0 cards in hand. There's no Gush. There's no AK.
Yeah.
They're just stuck under Hypnotic Spectre lock.
I think this will result in a more interesting format, and I also think like everyone should look at filter lands. I think you can build. I still think you should build Ally because you get the filter lands, and the pain lands, and you'll lose fetch lands. But having 8 duels is just like really good. And you can play red green, you can play green white, you can play red black. Even we didn't even talk about the potential for you to play Pit Rack, but with Bolts and Grim Lavamancer as well. If you're gonna
play red black, why would you play Pit Rack? You could
play Lavaborn Muse. Yeah.
Actually. Hard.
Yeah, man, like the Machine Head deck basically doesn't have deck touching. Like sometimes it had Phyrexian Arena. So people experimented with Skeletal Scrying. The Wishes are technically banned for this event, although I don't think they should be.
That's not deck touching.
That's not deck touching. It's not deck touching.
Literally not deck touching.
Some might argue that your sideboard is comprised of your 75 card deck. So that's fine.
Could you play Life and just like hope that you get the cards you want? Like.
Yeah, I think it's a possibility. I think it's a consideration to play a combo deck that just has like a lot of combo pieces, right? Like you could just play Dreadnought, but you also have Tricks. And it's like hope I get there.
You don't have Impulse.
Yeah.
But you've got like Reality Ripple.
You know what you can still play? You can still play Thwart. You can still play Counterspell. You can still play Mana Leak. So
I think people are going to pass on this one, and some people are just going to look at their opening hand and have a turn 2 12-12.
I mean, how bad could it possibly be? Like,
it can't. It's probably in the top half of the decks you can play.
Because here's what you can do: you can play Dreadnought, you can still play Tide. You can still play Tide Chain of Vapor. Okay, so you play Tricks Not Tide, right? Tricks Not Tide. You can sideboard your Chills. You can sideboard 8.
No, you can't play this. Tricks Not Tide in a format where you think that like Beefcake and Red are like the default level 0 deck. You're gonna get run over.
But if you sometimes you'll Dreadnought them. Sometimes like, you just game 1.
And sometimes you won't.
Sometimes game 1 you just like mulligan to combo and your opponent can't do it. Okay. So we've talked about
mulligan to combo includes casting Importance sometimes.
No. It's actually multi-combo this time. But combo could be Tricks.
Okay. I'm telling you, motherfuckers are gonna have a first turn Jackal Pup, and they have Pyroblast after sideboarding.
They don't have Pyroblast after sideboarding and no deck touch. No, nobody's gonna be stupid enough to play blue, which is exactly why you should play blue.
That's exactly you got them.
All right.
It was the codes of the universe.
Final shout out.
I am literally on black for this. I think black is awesome in this, and it's just. I mean, no Skeletal Scrying, fine. No Phyrexian Arena. We all hated it anyway.
Yep.
Give me the Rack. Give me Ravenous Rats. Give me Duress. It's like, dude, you got. Do you think Goblins is good? You have no Matron and no Ringleader.
I think no Matron, no Ringleader is pretty bad, but you are replacing it with like what Goblin Goon. You can play Ancient Tombs if you want. You can play.
Like is any green creature deck possibly good? Like, let's say you go like Elf, Curian Ranger, Raphellos, Plowwonder. Is that possibly good? Or
yeah, I think there's something there. I mean, I think you're vulnerable to red, but I think you could maybe play Tempting Worm.
I was thinking Tempting Worm and Wall of Blossoms after sideboarding does a lot there. Because I think any deck that has some sort of like powerful card advantage, like Plowwonder.
You can't play Wall of Blossoms, by the way, but you can play Wall of Roots.
Okay. So not Wall of Blossoms, sorry. But like, you know what I mean? Like, wait, can you play Stunted Growth? That causes you to put your opponent's cards on top.
Oh, that's a good question.
So
the rule for Stunted Growth and Volrath Stronghold and Plowwonder, I don't think it was clarified, but my opinion is if you release the cards from a certain amount of height, such that when they transfer from your hand zone to your deck zone, but you're not touching the deck zone when it happens, then you're good, right? So you kind of have to like Chaos Orb, drop the card from your hand like onto your library, because if you place it on your library, you are touching your deck as soon as it becomes a card in your library.
It seems to me, Volrath Stronghold, I get you, but like Plowwonder and Stunted Growth are not against the spirit of no deck touching.
I think that, none of those 3 cards to me feel like they instruct you to touch your deck, but you can take it up with the TO. I had one final thing to shout out. I think you should go check out my Twitter, where I open a pack of Exodus. And I'm just like, oh man, I feel like this is the one with City of Traders in it. And then I opened a City of Traders.
Nice.
And
I took at Grand Prix Andy, I took a film of myself opening a Chronicles pack, and I got a City of Brass.
Yeah, and the City,
City of Traders.
Yeah, I mean the City of Brass was like the best thing that you can open out of Chronicles pack. So I felt this was for Sonny's birthday though, right? So Sonny's birthday, he's like, let's go ahead and draft Triple Exodus. And let me tell you, Growlub is a house in Triple Exodus. Because
is that the 3/3 for 3 but with life gain?
Your like opponent, it's like reverse lifelink.
Lifelink the wrong way, right?
Yeah, if your opponent damages it, they gain the life. And everyone had to like read it 5 times before giving up. But I read it and I was like, this is the biggest creature I've seen in any of these packs so far, besides like Rabid Wolverines. And like the thing was like, I was just taking Growlubs and like Brian was just taking Carnophages. And then we got paired in round 1 and Growlub beats Carnophage. So like Brian
has to pay to upkeep the Carnophage, and then like if you attack the Carnophage into the Growlub, they gain 2.
Yes, but you win on board, right?
So wrong in so many.
Okay, so it's a horrible draft format with like pretty funny stuff going on. Like you could draft like Necrologia and like the Spell Shaper that lets you gain life, but only if you have less life. You can draft. There's no removal besides like Slaughter and like discard a card at random, deal 4 damage.
Slaughter is the buyback one, right?
Slaughter's disgusting, but not if your opponent has Growlub because it
Wait,
doesn't
you also
target.
have to pay for life or
Yeah,
something?
it's 2BB Dark Banishing, but pay 4 life to buy back, and it can't target Grolub. So
Because it's black?
yeah, that's nuts. But you can play there's so many weird ways to remove a creature. You can there's a green card that's like creatures that are enchanted can't attack or block. So you can just play that card, and there's a ton of auras in the set. There's like Maniacal Rage. There's like the one that gives +1/+1 counters. It's all shenanigans. And there's Shackles, which is like the best removal spell in the entire set. But after Slaughter.
Constructed, I think.
After Slaughter. But anyway, so I opened this. I opened the City of Traders, and Sunny was hyped and whatever. But I have like 3 gold border City of Traders, so I could play it. But I kind of felt like it was like so weird. It's just kind of like Sunny's birthday. It was like, oh, let's all open lottery ticket. Let's all scratch off lottery tickets, and I like hit a winner, right? So I was just like, because the problem is like I sort of would like the most logical thing, like if I kept it, I would just sell it, continue to borrow yours whenever I needed them, and then just get a gold border copy if I ever needed 4. So instead, I'm going to put up. And it felt dumb to sell it, right? I was like, oh, I should just have like Sunny sign this and should go in my pre-modern decks. But that felt dumb too. So we're gonna put up the City of Traders as the prize for Big Apple Highlander on Saturday, December 6th at 11 a.m. Again, all this is at mtgnyc.com or the New York Pre-Modern Discord. But Big Apple Highlander, I think, will be fun to revisit this year. We have Andy's red deck.
Andy won last year.
Which he won last Bah Humbug with, and then I won the online Bah League.
Same 75 that I played, right?
Yeah, with Black Blue Storm. I think Andy's deck would have crushed my deck, but who knows? It can win on turn 4.
What was my contribution to that? Tainted Pact.
Tainted Pact, yeah.
Yeah, you never get bit, right?
Yeah, Tainted Pact was insanely good in that deck. Yeah, that was awesome. So mark your calendars, December 6th and November 1st for Bah Humbug and No Deck Touching November. And
I want to say something about modern Magic for a second, contemporary Magic. I read an article about Through the Omen Paths yesterday, like on a non-Magic, like just gaming promotional website, I guess. And I have never said anything like this. Like, I don't wish badly on anybody, and I want Magic to thrive. But somebody has to be punished for this, okay? Like they showcase this card, and I'm like, this card does not resemble Spider-Punk in any way, right? Like, it doesn't. He looks like a villain. He looks ugly. Like, Spider-Punk is so cool.
It's not allowed to look like Spider-Punk, right?
No, but he's just like, it's just the opposite everything. And like, can you imagine a new player, especially like trying to keep all this shit in their heads? Like, for contemporary formats, I'm mostly an online player.
Well,
right?
the joke was that like Richard Garfield didn't intend for us to know every card, right? Like we would just discover them as we saw them for the first time.
Really
so we're just going back to that.
So like, I really don't wish, but like somebody has to feel the pain of this, and I really want this to fail, right? And I love Marvel Comics. But like, you can't have like. This is like so bad. It's such a bad player experience. Like, I hate it.
Yeah,
like,
and the second bad player experience in Tournament Magic recently too is Mike Long playing a sanctioned event. So you've got that going on for you as well if you're a contemporary Magic player.
I'm telling you, dude. All I'm saying is, like, when is enough, man? Like. When is enough? Like, I have been such a good soldier for so long, but this card doesn't resemble fucking Spider-Punk, right? Like, it's...
And for those of you who don't know, Mike is talking about they're not allowed to put the Spider-Man cards with Spider-Man IP in them into Magic Arena or Magic Online due to licensing issues. As a result, those cards are going to have identical versions of themselves,
including like same creature type. So for no reason, this guy who's like a villain looking character is like a spider hero.
Yeah, so it's like
right?
a mechanical equivalent. And yeah, it's definitely dumb and bad. The draft format is also going to be 4 players, with players picking 2 cards from a pack at a time. I guess because the set is quite small. Can't be smaller than Triple Exodus, though. And guess what? We played Triple Exodus with 8 people, and I got 5 Growlibs.
I don't know how to say this, Laney. I love Magic. Obviously, I love Magic. All I've done is podcasts about Magic, write about Magic. I play Paper Magic 3 times a week, right? I'm playing in a $4,000 tournament on Saturday. I play formats that WotC doesn't recognize. I play formats that WotC recognizes grudgingly because they don't make any money on it. I cannot stand this spider hero fake the fake Infinity Stone doesn't even have an infinity symbol on it. Like, it's like mechanically identical. Kind of. Like, this is killing me. This is seriously killing me. Like, I don't know how they're I love Avatar The Last Airbender. I could care less about Final Fantasy other than the fact that they banned the entire format, and 2 months, like not even 2 months later, it's the exact same 2 decks in the exact same proportion. Like, are the only decks that are performing? Like, dude, somebody has to do a better job. And the Spider-Man stuff, that's my breaking point, I think. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I love Magic so much. And, like, he doesn't resemble Spider-Punk. Yeah. It doesn't thematically resemble Spider-Punk.
Long live Pre-Modern. Love Spy Colony.
Also, Pauper. I'm Burn Prince of Pauper.
There's going to be donuts and subway cars in Pauper now because of Spider-Man. So.
Oh, God, man. All right. Love Spy Colony.